The year 2020. You're locked inside your auntie's shed, shaving your head in work Zoom calls, and lipsing your girl via Bluetooth connection. It was a long day. Amidst the chaos though of the pandemic back in the day, there were some cool things emerging. 2-for-1 Nando's, for example, nobody presumably being allowed to play the sport of snooker, and one English wonder kid who was ready to burst onto the scene. The truth is, we've known about Jadon Sancho for a couple of years now. After his move from Manchester City to Borussia Dortmund, the meteoric rise of Jadon in the Bundesliga was hard to argue with. In the 1920 campaign, he provided 20 goals and 20 assists for his side, marking up interest from all of the top and biggest clubs in the world, and also Manchester United. This was the new future of English football, except nobody told us that download came with a couple bits of software that we didn't need. Fast forward to 2025 and Jadon is absolutely nowhere near his prime, embroiled in yet more controversy, and can't get a start in the Premier League to save his life. And it really does beg the question, at the age of 25, is it already all over for Jadon Sancho? Yeah, look, listen, I'm going to keep it a buck 50. It's not looking good. 8 minutes of Premier League action for Jadon Sancho so far this season, whilst on loan at Aston Villa from Manchester United. Now, on the pitch, and this season kind of represented one last chance, I feel like, to really prove himself for Jadon Sancho, right? He'd just come back from a loan spell at Chelsea that was underwhelming. Blues fans didn't want him. Chelsea basically paid not to actually sign the guy. So a late deadline day move on loan to Aston Villa, who overperformed really last season, made it quite far in the Champions League, was probably about as good as he was going to achieve, I'm not going to lie to you. And it even started with a bit of hope. I mean, like, he looked like good when he was doing the pictures. He had like a fresh fade. That's more that can be said for Marcus Rashford, who'd done the same move last season and looked like he'd done his medical in a hedge somewhere behind the ground. But it turns out for Jadon, he would spend more time in the barbers than out on the pitch. Whilst we're only in October, we're only like 2 months into the season, this man has played 8 minutes of Premier League football. Because the fact of the matter is, Manchester United have somehow managed to pump fake Aston Villa into signing troops on loan. He's the only player that's not got the post-United stats boost. This is crazy. We got Rasmus Højlund scoring goals for days over at Napoli. Anthony being loved and adored over at Real Betis. Tyrell Malacia is hopefully still alive somewhere. I don't even know if he still is contracted to Manchester United Football Club. I'm not even gonna lie. But Jadon Sancho has not even got the DLC yet, and that seemed like the most assured thing. Every single player that leaves this football club goes on to do great things, including Marcus Rashford, who did the same loan move as him last season and is now banging in goals left, right and centre for Barcelona. At this rate, Jadon's FC27 card is going to look absolutely catastrophic. Look, he's distracted, man. He's got other things to be doing, other people to be seeing when Aston Villa ask him to actually kick a football at some point during his loan spell. And I just know the financial deficit is going to hit him hard when he realises that his next wage is going to be £425 instead of £425,000. The loan move last season for Jadon wasn't particularly impressive at Chelsea, and it actually ruined someone else's move before it had even happened. I mean, Alejandro Garnacho should be able to sue this guy. The main reason Chelsea didn't want him, apart from Garnacho having had a pretty bad season, was the fact that they just had the same deal happen with Jadon Sancho going from United to Chelsea as well. Garnacho was done before he even walked through the doors at Stamford Bridge. This man was taken down by association. Aston Villa's been bad on the pitch. Chelsea was bad on the pitch. We'll have his stats on the screen, but it was pretty unimpressive, especially given a lot of those goal contributions came in the Conference League, or in cup competitions for that matter. It was bad at the end of the Manchester United era, his falling out with Erik ten Hag, an argument where he refused to apologise to the Dutch manager. Well, Erik ten Hag is getting the last laugh after watching the rest of his career play out at this point. Realistically, we don't actually realise kind of the actual impact that Jadon Sancho has had on the game of football up to this point. What he's done for the beautiful sport that we know and love, like creating the 007 trend. It was the worst thing to ever happen to football. I can't believe we can look back and say that Nicolas Pepe might genuinely be having a significantly better career than Jadon Sancho is at the moment, especially given we were comparing this guy to Kylian Mbappe at one point. Back in 2020, these were the two leading wonder kids in world football. And now at best, we're looking at a Saudi Arabian move for the kid next season. If he doesn't break into this Aston Villa team and have some sort of impact on this squad, no Premier League club's going to go near him, because there's not the actual performance and like ability that is a fair trade-off for the amount of money you're going to have to pay him based on his previous wages at United. Maybe an option could be Saudi Arabia. I mean, like, his buddy Cristiano Ronaldo's over there. Though I can't help but feel Big Ron's going to be a little bit concerned when his former former teammate walks into training and starts giving him advice on OnlyFans models.
What are you doing here? And not in a racist way.
I just need bro to lock in for like one singular month in a row, and judging by his off-field antics, that doesn't look like it's about to happen anytime soon. Jadon, whilst not particularly being too busy on the pitch for Aston Villa so far this season, has been grabbing headlines off it after allegations from the former manager of his alleged current partner, stick with me on this one, said that his current partner, Saweetie, who's a rapper, the only reason they met was because of her, because of, well, him being a client of hers. I will let you come to the conclusion of what that means, but it's not a very legal. So this girl was what, like basically a pimp to his current girlfriend, and now he's run off and owes her loads of money or something. Now already at this point she has posted significantly on this topic over on like Instagram and on Twitter. Jadon must have been in a state of disarray watching all these tweets fly up on his phone whilst he was just trying to enjoy the beach. It's even bad timing, like he can't even distract himself with like playing football because of international break. Let's be honest, even if it wasn't the international break, he wouldn't be playing football. She's talking about like doing hate watches for Aston Villa, yeah, over on Twitter. This is generational hatred. Imagine locking into a hate watch for Villa and then you realize you got to watch Victor Lindelof on your TV screen. I don't even think it's worth it. And what a crazy situation for the girl to find herself in as well. She's probably the first person to see Jadon Sancho finish since like 2021. Now look, listen, who am I to say whether Jadon Sancho should owe 47% of his wages to some random pimp from like 3 years ago? All I know is that Unai Emery is depressed already knowing these lot are forking out about 475k a week just for this man to get into beef on Instagram. And truthfully, honestly, I cannot tell you how little of a fuck I give about like a player's dating life. I always feel like it's a little bit parasocial from fans to truly care more than anything and really give a fuck. So in this situation, I do understand why it could be very different because of the nature of the start of their relationship. Obviously, if it's all consenting, then it's absolutely fine, but it does seem like there's been some dodgy stuff going on, given Jadon was apparently listed as being a client of her services. And this woman also alleged, not confirmed whatsoever by the way, just to clarify, that he was addicted to balloons during the same time frame. Imagine when he was on loan at Chelsea and Christopher Nkunku scored, bro. He got the balloon out of his sock. He probably had this man sweating.
I need that. We need that.
Look, all I'm gonna say on this matter, again, A, it's alleged. It's literally just one girl going onto Instagram and posting shit on stories. So who knows whether this is actually true or not. Obviously, if it is, I'm not gonna lie, bro, that's kind of hard to come back from as like an athlete. Not like in the long term, but in the short term, definitely. Like Aston Villa, not really their job under the circumstances. He's a lone player. I know Unai is already annoyed when he sees the kid get a smart whip out in the training ground instead of a Lucozade sport bottle. But this is serious business. That's rough. And I hope either if that was something in the past that's happened and now he's recovered from, if it is true, again, that Manchester United as his parent club were able to support him with that, or if it's currently going on, I hope Aston Villa will be able to, because he definitely needs that if that's the case. But I think for me, this really highlights kind of like a culmination of just mental things that go on with Jadon Sancho seemingly like every year. We all know the Manchester United spell just didn't go how it was supposed to, right? He came in for big money. Whilst he looked good at times, he really never lived up to the price tag, and I think it's fair to say at this stage is never really going to. There seemed like there was a bit of hope. At the end of the day, he went back on that loan spell to the Bundesliga again, back to Borussia Dortmund for 6 months, and whilst he didn't look his old self, you know, the 20 goals, 20 assists season from when he was still like a teenager, he seemed like there was like a little bit of hope, like elements of him at least becoming confident again. That little skill move in the Champions League where Marcel Sabitzer is like, "Bomba clap." Get me, things like that, and ultimately helped Borussia Dortmund to a Champions League final. They were defeated by Real Madrid in the end, but that was still a nice little send-off, really, from a loan spell that you can use to get momentum back again. And then it just absolutely didn't happen back at United or then at Chelsea afterwards as well. It wasn't the worst spell in the world. It wasn't as bad as, say, Antony's spell at Manchester United. It was still kind of memeable, I think, just mostly because it was Jadon Sancho, but I wouldn't even say it was as bad as, like, Raheem Sterling's loan spell at Arsenal. He definitely contributed significantly more, whilst it may not have been strictly in the Premier League. He did an okay job. There wasn't a crazy amount of success, you know, apart from winning the Conference League, but the concern that I have is all of this off the field stuff, and now culminating in an Aston Villa spell where he can't get anywhere near the team, hasn't looked very good when he has played in the Cups. And whilst I don't want to write this loan spell off on the pitch, I'm holding the pen, innit? Get me? Like, it's in my hand, I'm ready to cross it out. And if it carries on this way, Aston Villa will be, and they don't even own the player, but they'll get him out of there regardless. But this is a man ultimately with 67 assists and 53 goals in just over 150 appearances for Borussia Dortmund. That is an absolutely crazy return. I know we talk about the Bundesliga not exactly being the strongest league in the world. I think defensively it does lack at times, and there are some players that have made the move from the Bundesliga to the Prem and haven't necessarily dealt with it too well, but it's still a strong enough league to be able to put those numbers in at such a young age and obviously be an emerging and quality talent. You didn't need to be a scout to know that Jadon Sancho's trajectory was that he was going to become one of the top 10 or 15 players in the world at least. We're talking about a couple times in his career he finishes top 5 in the Ballon d'Or. That genuinely should have been the level that Jadon Sancho was striving to achieve. His combination with Erling Haaland, even in the Champions League, they were actually producing quality together. Erling Haaland obviously came to the Prem and has absolutely battered it for Manchester City, but of course for Jadon Sancho things didn't go that well at United, but he was being compared to Kylian Mbappe for a reason back in 2020. And look, I'm not the type of person to write someone off super quickly. I am holding the pen though, Jadon. I do want that to be known. At the end of the day, we talked about Marcus Rashford. Whilst things probably hadn't been as bad for such a consistent period of time, for Marcus Rashford, there were always bursts of ability. He'd always have one season on and one season off. Even when the debacle with Ruben Amorim happened, you knew his most recent patch of form wasn't that long ago. With Jadon Sancho, we're talking 3 years ago for decent form, 5 years ago for electric form. But with Marcus Rashford, he was able to reinvent himself. He went to Aston Villa and looked really good and ultimately changed their season alongside Marco Asensio. He guided them to the latter stages of the Champions League, and now he's gone to Barcelona and he's killing it for Barca as well. He's not a standout performer there. He's not their best player, but he's contributing significantly and more than doing enough in comparison to probably what Hansi Flick expected from him when the loan spell started. So I know with Jadon Sancho only being 25, there'll be a lot of people that are saying, look, it's still early in his career, but 25 for a winger, it's not old, but you should definitely be like kicking into some kind of prime at this point. And more crucially than what he's unable to achieve on the pitch at the moment in terms of getting a string of fitness or performances together or really rekindling any sort of form that he had at Borussia Dortmund, all this off the field stuff has got to stop. I don't necessarily care whether what this girl has said is particularly accurate in regards to some of it, right, in terms of his relationship. I don't give a fuck. But the balloon stuff, just even being embroiled in this sort of drama at all, how is he supposed to get himself back to a position where he's football focused when everything else is distracting him from the actual thing that he's supposed to be doing? He's not going to get a good loan spell. He's probably not even going to get a good move because of his wage demands being so high comparative to the output that he's had over the last 5 seasons. And I just feel like all of these things are going to spiral into a situation where we've got a guy who had the world at his feet but cannot get away from all the wrong things that hurt footballers so often. There's still a chance for him to turn things around on the pitch at Aston Villa, but he has to do it. This is an absolutely pivotal season for Jadon Sancho. I'm not saying I'm giving up on him just yet, but I think the combination of on-the-field stuff and off-the-field stuff is making it kind of difficult to have hope in him. But what do you guys think? Is it a wrap for Jadon Sancho at the highest level? Will we see some level of comeback, and where does he actually need to go? If you were Jadon Sancho, what would you actually do right now? Because genuinely for me, I legitimately am not even sure. I hope that he's good. I don't want to tear him down as a person. I don't necessarily think that that is required, but it's actually just frustrating for me at this point to see this consistently occurring and us consistently be embroiled in these conversations of talking about what Jadon Sancho could have been when it seems like lots of stupid shit is just happening off the field. If you have enjoyed this video though, of course, feel free to slap a like on it and subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.